stream on the channel that you're watching right now. So we've been doing that for a little while and then ultimately started a rewatch a couple years ago and moved it over to the Mission Log Discord because that's where our core audience was. And that's what we're doing now. So you might be also wondering, where is Norman Lau? Well, he can't be here with us today. So I have with me a wonderful person, Sandy Yeomans, who is a member of the B5 group. It's going to be a little different this year, and it's going to be so much fun because we come from different spots in B5 journeys. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to do an in-depth discussion on the episode that we're on in the group, which is the season 3 episode Walkabout. So, hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, hey, Shar, thank you for having me. This is a new experience for me, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, your very first panel. I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's going to be such a good time. And I want to say hi to everybody who is joining us here in the chat through Virtual TrekCon. Hi, Anne Marie, Steve Case, Wardog Heim, Shannon E., Steve Case, Melissa Longo, Galinda, Christoph Leichleitner. I don't know if I said that correctly, so forgive me if I flubbed that. Thank you all so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Um, okay. Well, how about we get into it? Let's talk about your B5 journey because you're a more recent viewer of the show, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so when did this start and why did it start?
Well, I've been a Star Trek fan as long as I can remember. And I've listened to the Mission Log podcast, and I love the interaction of the hosts and the discussion and the morals, meanings, and messages and what they would discuss. And then as going along, all of a sudden we had this thing called the pandemic. And it just kind of happened at that same time where we were moving from watching the mission log on Patreon to Discord. And we were getting the weekly discussions of the episodes of Star Trek on Discord. And Babylon 5 was a frequent topic that would come up specifically for you and Norm. So I'm like, well,
Gee, I wonder why.
I know. So I've never seen this show. So I wonder if there's something to it. So I talked to Norm a little bit and finally I just like couldn't find it on any streaming platform that I currently had. So I just ordered the DVD set and did what everybody did during the pandemic, right? We binged. So I
We
binge
sure
watched
did.
the whole thing. I got done and I'm like, well, that was fun. Now what? And you guys then Mission Log started our weekly watch along, and this is perfect for my second time through. I'm getting the opinions of other people, other viewers, other as new people are taking it in. Plus, we're getting the perspectives of you and Norm or others like Brian, who Earl, who have gone deep into this. And
Yeah,
so
the
I'm
old
kind of in the
vets.
middle. I'm still considering myself kind of a newbie, but I'm enjoying the discussions that we've been having, or I'm getting that much more out of it. But yet it's not my first time through.
Yeah, so how long did that initial binge watch take you?
Well, it was the pandemic, so we were home a lot.
There's no wrong answers.
Probably 3 weeks.
You know what? That's pretty good. And don't feel bad. I think my husband and I binged Breaking Bad, which is also 5 seasons in about that amount of time. So, when you're into a show, you can get into it. 3 to 4 episodes a night, it doesn't take that long.
You get up and
Yeah,
then, watch an episode and get up and do some laundry and then go back and watch the next one.
exactly. That's what you do. Especially after a long day of work and you just frankly don't want to do anything else. So, I don't know. It's the way that is. Also, this was back when I lived in Fargo where it was super dead cold in the winter. There wasn't a whole lot else to do except snuggle up with a warm heated blanket and a cat on your lap and you watch TV all night. That's what we did.
Sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Mission Log Discord. That's where we tend to have our full discussions, where folks like you and me and Earl and Brian, all the folks that you mentioned, plus more, we get together and it's sort of like a book club. Every week we watch a new episode and we've been doing this for a couple of years now and we'll just get into it. We have fun. We just dive in and I love the fact that we have such a great mix of people in their watch histories with this show with us. We have you're going the second time around. So you're seeing new things as a repeat viewer, but you haven't watched it 20 or so times like some of us have over the last 30 years. Oh my God. And then we have first timers. And that is the really fun part because it's like watching, the kids at Christmas, their eyes light up at the discovery of these things and the revelations as they come down the pipe. And oh my gosh, it's the best thing. So, yeah, all you have to do if you are interested in possibly joining us for our discussion later today, because we have it at 4 p.m. Pacific. Let's see, that makes it 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can go to patreon.com/mission log and that, you sign up. All it takes is like $1 to get in and you can come join us today if you really want to. So, shall we get going on Walkabout?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, so your first impressions, general impressions of this episode. This one was very different from the last things that we watched, which was War Without End 1 and 2. What's your take on Walkabout? What did you come away with it?
Wow, coming after the War Without End, World Without End, War Without End.
War Without End.
This was a nice lighter, a little bit lighter fare. I enjoy a show that's got a good balance of plot and character. And when you get into warish type things, it can get a little plot heavy. And this one had a nice amount of character development and character study. And so I feel like in this particular episode, we'll be talking more about the characters than about the plot. And it was just a nice change of pace, most definitely.
I'm totally with you on that. I like to call it a palate cleanser because
Yeah.
after a really intense two-parter like War Without End, you kind of have to come up for air a little bit. Like that is so much to take in, especially on those first, I don't know, at least 10 watches with that one. There's so much in it. Even I don't even know, what number I'm on these days. I'm still seeing new things and we mention them in the group all the time. It's just that rich. So I can just imagine for our poor first timers trying to keep track of everything. Like, because we tell you, hey guys, remember this name, remember this thing. It might not make any sense right now, but it will, we promise. How many times have we said that in the group, Sandy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's true because everything is done with that much purpose and intent, and you really do have to watch over and over and over to see the full scope of this incredibly intricate show. But that's why we love it.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you said, here we are, we're in season 3 and something comes up that resolves something that was mentioned in season 1, episode 3? Like, how do
Yep.
you go back and resolve all these things, but you have to keep taking it in over and over again to pick up the threads that you don't see in a first or a second or a third or a fifth watch.
Yeah, well, yeah, those that first season especially, so many little seeds are planted and you have no idea that you're supposed to even be like paying attention to that because why would you as a first time viewer? But then later on, and especially if you do go back and do what you're doing right now and rewatching, suddenly, wow, that all makes so much more sense and it was right there, hiding in plain sight.
Mhm.
It's part of what makes this show so much fun. It only appreciates with rewatches, which you can't say of a lot of 90s shows, I hate to say. I don't know, we get a little spoiled with sci-fi, but B5 it was definitely its own thing back in that day. And, in a lot of ways, storytelling wise, especially, still holds up very much to this day. So, yeah, okay, I called it a palate cleanser. I too am a big fan of character stories, and I do appreciate that we're coming back to Babylon 5 now after a real crazy mess, and we're going to slow down a little so we can maybe just breathe and, you know, just kind of take in what has been happening on the station since that whole thing happened. Because Franklin resigned right before War Without End happened. So we're catching up to him and what's going on with him. And it's great to know that he's not off the show. One of the folks in our group, Jane, she said, "Oh my God, I was just starting to like this guy, and now he's done? He's off? And of course, we're really careful about spoilers on our Discord. We don't want the first timers to know what's going to happen. So, of course, we're just like tight lipped. We can't tell you if he's gone or not. We're not doing it. So, I'm really looking forward to her reaction, assuming she's going to be with us this afternoon and her thoughts on this episode, just because now she will know. So let's see what else here. The walkabout. This is an interesting concept, and Franklin is getting it from the Foundationists, which is, I guess, like his religious belief, and they have taken it from the Aborigines, where this is how you find yourself, and you actually ask that question, "What do you want?" So this is an interesting concept. Then I think it's incredibly useful for Franklin's situation. But what is your take on the walkabout here? Are you like Garibaldi? Do you think uh, this is crazy, or do you think, you know what, this something really good might happen from this?
Well, first of all, I thought it was interesting that they started the show or the episode with the captain on a walkabout on the outside of the space station. So we had
Hey,
two little walkabouts happening. But as far as Franklin goes, I just think it was one of those parallels to real life because we all, I believe, hit points in our lives where we just have to kind of stop and take stock. Who are we? What is life about for us right now? What's giving us meaning? What's taking our joy away? And you go on a walkabout, even if you don't just put on a backpack and walk around the space station, you reassess and you reevaluate. And I really respect that that is what Franklin was doing at that time because it was really important for him to rediscover whatever it is that is to come.
yeah, I love this concept of the walkabout. And in fact, I think it's something everybody should maybe do in their lives because what really stands out is the commentary of how we get so distracted in our day-to-day things and the noise of all the things that are out there trying to gather our attention. We're just constantly bombarded by things on every angle in every way. And I can completely see how, especially somebody like Franklin, who is so dedicated to his job, loses himself and gets caught up in all of that, all of the minutia, and then has to realize, oh, huh? And you're totally lost. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have felt that way at some point in our lives. And so the walkabout sounds like a really good reset. And I just think that's a fantastic idea. And if we ever do get lost, we too should go on a walkabout. Before we continue, I want to say hi to Julie, who is another member of our group. Hey,
I am truly sorry. I fell asleep waiting for this to
I
start.
knew you did. It's okay. It is okay. I'm so glad you are here now. We are just barely getting started on the episode discussion. So, how about
Yes.
we pause for just a moment and let's get to know your story, your B5 journey, because we already know that Sandy is a
I
rewatcher. Where are you at in a B5?
This is the third time I have watched it. The first
Third.
time I tried, I only got through the halfway point of season 4 and I got very angry at the show. When we get to that point, I'll tell you why.
Oh,
The second
okay.
and I quit watching. The second time I said, "Oh, I'm going to give this another try." And that was a few years ago and I watched it through and I liked. So when you and Norm started this group, started watching it with a group from Mission Log, I said, well, I'm going to give it a try because I liked it the second time. And I know I really like watching stuff and discussing it with that group. It's been way better than watching it myself.
Absolutely, I agree completely. That's why I told Char when we started this, it was I get so much more out of it hearing everybody else's point of view as we
Yeah.
discuss the points.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a big reason why we wanted, in part, to do the discussions on the Mission Log Discord because you both participate in After Dark regularly, which is the
Yes.
Mission Log episode of the week discussion. And those are so much fun. And we have some wicked smart people who come in with points of view from every angle. You come out of those discussions feeling like you know the episode in a completely different way most of the time, which is amazing. But that's the kind of cool environment that we have going there. And B5, honestly, has been just kind of more of the same of that. And it's been such a blast. And the great thing is we're still only roughly about halfway through. We've still got a lot more to go. So, okay, I did not realize you were a third time watcher. I thought you had more under
Well,
your
two
belt.
and a
So,
half.
okay, two and a half. That's fair. That's fair. So, okay, Sandy, you've noticed some things in your second watch that you couldn't have possibly seen the first time around. Is there anything in particular that has stood out to you, Julie, in your rewatching history so far that you couldn't have possibly known in B5 for that very first time?
I really appreciate how complicated the story is and how well it holds together. When you see it a second time, you can kind of see the moving parts a little more clearly,
Totally.
and it's
Especially,
impressive.
it is. Yeah. I mean, this was obviously not a show that was just made up on the spot and went along as
Yeah,
JMS thought of random things. No, this was incredibly well planned and executed. And we just came off of War Without End, which I think has to be the
yeah,
prime example of that.
yeah.
To make that work,
That is one of my favorite episodes, and it's very complicated. There's a lot of stuff that has to work together. And when you rewatch it, you realize how impressively it does that. It's a very hard thing to pull off.
yeah. Well, I can only imagine. I've never done that, but I'm sure it was. So, all right. What were your first impressions of Walkabout, Julie?
Well, you obviously liked the Franklin part of the series, the show, more than I did.
Okay.
I When I watched it, and in fact, I felt the same way watching it this time, I was completely uninterested in him and the lounge singer. I was like, get me back to the Vorlons and the Shadows, please, right now.
Okay. This is
How
this is
much longer is
great.
this going to be?
This is
Not that
great because
I
I
don't
had
dislike Franklin as a character. I just found it completely uninteresting. And
okay.
I
Okay,
can
I
I
kind
can
of have an
sympathize
opposite
with
reaction.
I could sympathize with this situation, but I was like, this is just not interesting.
Okay, fair enough. Well, and I know you want to talk about Lita. We'll get there. I promise.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, Franklin, the walkabout whole thing, not
Not
terribly
for me.
exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I could sympathize without wanting to watch it, really.
Okay, so you kind of you just wanted him to wander off and like do his own thing, and Garibaldi didn't need to stop him, and he could just do this whole thing and tell us later. Is that what you're saying?
That would have worked fine for me, but you
Yeah.
had to know what happened to him, I guess. I just got impatient with it.
Oh, okay. That I mean, that's fair. That's fair. What did you think about Kaylin James?
Uh,
Because
oh,
you
you
know
mean the
what?
character? Okay, that's the
Yeah, the
lounge singer
character, his
character.
love
I
interest.
didn't immediately recognize the name. I thought the actress was good. I thought she was charismatic and she did a good job with the part. I just wasn't interested in her story.
Okay. See, I think she plays a really interesting part in Franklin's story. But if you're not interested in Franklin's story, you might not care. But being the psych major that I was in college, these two somewhat broken people are coming together at this pivotal time in his life. I think that's no coincidence. And he's running into her right when he needs to.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, I enjoyed their interaction. I thought that, like you said, two broken people coming together, the resolution of her story in the episode, I was surprised. And, it's nice to be surprised and not see the ending coming for her. I don't know if I read it in the Discord or somewhere else that the songs that she sang in the episode were written for the character for the episode by JMS. And
Yes.
and she performed them amazing. I thought these were things were Whitney Houston quality songs, and she just sang the heck out of them.
She did. Yeah, that is
And then
exactly the
and they let her sing the whole song. It wasn't a few phrases and
Yeah.
cut to the bar. They actually let
yeah.
her sing the song. I loved it.
So glad you brought up that background piece because yeah, JMS wrote the songs, Chris Frankie did all the arranging, and I've heard people on the internet, as people say things, on the internet, oh, these songs are terrible. And I'm just thinking, look,
Oh.
it's standard issue pop music is going to outlive us all, okay? Are they great? No, but her performance, though,
Yes.
absolutely really gave it life. Yeah, the lyrics are, I'm sorry. I'm glad JMS didn't want to pursue a career as a songwriter. He's where he needs to be, but they're fine given what they are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
I
they
didn't
were they were bar ballads, and she really, really sold what she said was important to her. It was important to her to touch people, to reach out, make them, smile or cry or whatever. And that's what those types of songs will do to the audience. And
Yeah,
she felt that was her calling, and that gave her purpose and joy. And there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah. She got life out of that and by giving these people life. Like she knows she's coming to the end of her life and where better than to go and help other broken people just survive one day longer? I mean, I feel like that's what Down Below is all about. And apparently, all they serve at bars in Down Below is more Yoo-Hoo. A
Right?
couple of weeks
Yeah,
ago, we had this discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what is with
Jakar
the
and
YouTube?
Michael York's character, they were drinking Yoo-Hoo at their bar because and that's all they get is just this chocolatey milk contraption thing. Ew.
Now, do they actually tell you it's Yoo-hoo? In
Well,
universe, or is it supposed to be alcoholic Yoo-hoo? I mean,
it's spiked. Yeah. It was Yoo-Hoo for sure for a late delivery for Avalon. With this, they didn't say anywhere, like I couldn't find any background saying, yeah, it was Yoo-Hoo again, but it looks exactly the same, so I have to assume it is.
yeah,
I don't know. Why
yeah.
didn't they get a
I'm thinking,
sponsorship
I'm thinking I'll open a competing bar.
and
Seriously,
serve like Nestle Quick?
like bourbon.
I'm going with you, Julie.
You're probably going to get a lot more business
We're
that way.
we're gonna we're gonna have a drink in Vegas. And it won't be
Yes.
you.
Not Yoo-Hoo, not Zima either.
And we'll run away from Bob.
Oh, Zima.
Zima. I mean, Zima got it wasn't a sponsorship, but they got the logo on the show. Why didn't Yoo-Hoo get a sponsorship or something like that? They could have brought in some dollars, I'm sure.
They're getting their mileage out of us. We'll just talk about it.
I mean, yeah, I guess if that was the intent, it worked, didn't it? Oh, dang it, we gave them what they wanted.
And we got nothing for it.
See, that's really the system. We're just playing right into it. Well, how about we get back on track? Talk about Kaylin just a little bit more. I wanted to ask you both about her possible motives in this whole relationship because sparks fly very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, do you think there's some ulterior motive for her just because she really needs this medicine? She finds out that he's a doctor, and was that possibly a factor for her, or was it just a convenient thing when she did find out?
I think that's a possible interpretation. I didn't necessarily get that from the episode, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, I didn't get it either. I thought there was just kind of a mutual attraction between them in the bar, as mutual attractions in bars will go. And sometimes they will go back to your room, and that's what had happened with them. And she didn't find out until they had already.
That's what I'm wondering. When did she find out he was a doctor? I don't remember that.
I
I don't
think
know
it
that it
was
was actually verbalized.
well,
At
she it's
sometime between bar and bed, she obviously found out.
yeah, it's in that introductory conversation where it's after hours and he's hanging around, she approaches him and they're kind of going back and forth and she says something to the effect of, "Oh, my mom always said I should have married a doctor, blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
And so like she knew, I think before they hit the sack.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't see it in her face of, "Oh, you're a doctor. I could
Yeah.
use this to my advantage." I just don't see that in her. And even though, like, maybe she did take his identicard to buy the mescaline or whatever it is she needs, I don't see her as a deviant. Like, I don't see her as that kind of a character. She kind of had to do what she was going to do, and she was going to
Yeah.
do that and then beg, like not ask for permission first, but ask for forgiveness later, that sort of thing.
I didn't get the impression this was calculated on her part. That that was not the way it looked to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to know if that's what you also saw, because I could see how somebody might think and get there, think, oh, she's just into him and is going to sleep with him for basically his money and his medicine. And then here's another question about this whole thing is he's the head of MedLab, and granted, he's recently resigned, but she's been sick for a while and got diagnosed right before he came aboard, and they've never run into each other. Thoughts on the logistics of that?
It's a good point. That's what I was wondering. When did she know he was a doctor? Did she know him at all? I can see why he wouldn't know her.
Well, there's
Yeah.
250,000 people living on this space station. There's a lot of people you haven't run into.
Yes. Yeah, there's a few things to consider, I think, is one, he's probably not seeing every single person that comes into MedLab, especially maybe for something like a refill for a prescription. Also, it sounds like she can't always afford the medicine through MedLab. She's going to dispensaries, and therefore those are probably not sanctioned through MedLab, so she's dealing with other people.
Yeah, when you're down
So
below, you do things differently.
yeah, a little bit. But this has been brought up a couple times of, oh, this is why she went after him is because she knows who he is. And no, I don't. I really think this was a genuine. Seems like they should have crossed paths and yet they hadn't. So that's just my thought.
You do
Let's
have to
see.
wonder where is she getting this drug if she's not getting it from MedLab? This is presumably something akin to opiates, maybe.
She, I forget if it's she who says it or if it's Franklin or somebody else, but she mentions dispensaries. So I'm wondering,
Yeah,
like, okay, I don't know if they're legal or illegal, but yeah, she might be
yeah,
getting some sort of substitute to get by, or like, yeah, the details are vague as to whether or not it's the actual medicine. And it's just, for people who can't, like, who don't have insurance to go to MedLab, they can go here, that sort of a thing.
yeah.
In some weird way, this is some kind of commentary on the healthcare system, which unfortunately in the B5 future is not any better than what we have now.
No, it's
So,
not.
and I
My
do
daughter
wonder,
just my daughter just got kicked off my health insurance, and now she has to buy her estrogen on the gray market. So there you go.
oh, best wishing her luck on that. Wow. That's got to
Yes,
be a heck of a thing. Yeah, I also wondered, with this being the 90s, is this also a commentary on legalizing cannabis?
maybe.
Because that was back in the day when this aired, a more controversial and certainly less available thing. And I'm not sure if the episode is saying, look at the healthcare system and how horrible it is and the lengths she has to go to even keep herself upright, or what exactly. But the thought occurred.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Oh, okay. I have one more question, and then we can move on to what you really want to talk about, Julie. But as far as romantic partners go for Dr. Franklin, where do we rate Kaylin James?
I'd sleep with her.
She's attractive and she's smart. She's funny. I mean, yeah, I think she's actually a pretty good catch. And they seem to get along really well from the get-go. So this might be the best pairing he's had so far. He's done worse.
Has he had another partner?
Yeah. Do you remember in season 2 when he started having a romantic attraction to one of his patients, the lady
Yes.
in the what is it, the chronological freezing, the Copernicus. I forget which episode it was called, but Frozen Lady comes out, has been out of
Oh,
commission for a
that's
little while,
right.
and then
Yeah.
they fall for each other, and that violates so many ethical boundaries. We
Oh
can't even get
God,
into
that's
that.
right. That was not good. That was not a good look for Franklin.
No, it was a terrible look. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is actually a lot better for him. So I don't know. It just sucks that she's not got long to live, but maybe these
Yeah, it
final
sure does.
moments, maybe he can take good care of her and give her at least, a decent twilight in her life, however you want to call that, and they can have a decent time while they're together. Yeah.
It
And
is
she's a
really
great singer.
sad. Yeah.
It is sad. Like I do feel bad for her in her situation, but she's so, I don't know, her attitude on it is not optimistic, but she's matter of fact, has accepted the reality, and she's like, it is what it is. And I'm just gonna do my thing for as long as I'm able. Like, wow, I hope if I'm ever in that position, I have that same attitude and approach life with that much gusto because she seems to be doing great with it. Crazy.
When you don't have any other choice but to accept your fate, it's a lot easier to swallow.
That's a good point, right? Yeah, it's not necessarily a choice you're making because you have to, but you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other
Next
thoughts
up,
on Kaylin, James, or Dr. Franklin, the walkabout before we move on to the next thing?
let's move on.
Okay, let's do that. I know Julie's ready. Let's talk about this new Vorlon guy, also named
Yeah.
Kosh. Yeah,
Well,
impressions of this guy.
The Vorlons know how to make an entrance.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. I would love to
it's
know what the writing was on that Vorlon ship. What did it say? Of course, we're never gonna know, but you know,
I just wouldn't want to get into a staring match with one because they can stare like nobody's
Oh yeah.
business.
they ought to get into
Yes,
the
they
business of
can.
staring contests because I mean, they would win every time. Like you
I
would have to flinch or blink or something. I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
Cry and
impressions
run
on
away.
yeah, that maybe. Yeah. Impressions on this new guy compared to old now kind of dead, but sort of inside Sheridan apparently, Kosh.
You gotta love the way he introduces himself. Hello, Lita, nice to meet you. I am now going to choke you with my mind.
Look,
That's
yeah,
my opening move.
when someone's introduction to you is a stranglehold, that's not a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's more reddish in appearance, in my opinion, for a reason.
It's
It's because he's more evil.
yeah, I'm trying to remember when relatively this show came out compared to Star Wars. Had we seen Darth Vader do this at the time this show came out? Because that's what I
Oh,
immediately
golly.
thought of.
Sandy, do you know? Because I am no Star Wars expert.
I am not either.
Oh boy. Okay, we
Not at
lose nerd
all.
points. Sorry, folks out there watching.
No,
But yeah, I don't know.
this was way after that. This was way after that. So I think that's kind of an influence here. It
Mm,
was very much like Darth Vader killing people by crushing their tracheas. That's what I immediately thought of here.
okay. Thank you, Earl, our producer Earl, who's behind the scenes and making all the buttons go off
Yes.
20 years before this. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
I've watched Star Wars and that is approximately it.
yes.
Just did not get into it. Sorry, folks. Yeah.
I don't think it's an accident. That definitely telegraphs to you this guy is not a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much from the get-go. This is not the same Kosh who's going to have you listen to Gregorian chants, for instance. Like, I don't know. What's this guy going to make Sheridan listen to? Death metal?
All I thought of when he was just the introduction, well, what do I call you in public and what do I call you in private
Yes.
was Kosh.
Yes.
And all I could think
Yes.
of was, we are Kosh, we are Borg.
I had a similar thought, that collectivism.
Yes,
And
we
yeah,
are
that was one of
Kosh.
the things I wanted to ask you guys is your thoughts on that whole thing. We're just going to pretend like this is Kosh 1.
I didn't take it as a collective consciousness at all. The way I took it as well, as far as you puny people are concerned, we're all Kosh.
I love that take. It makes a lot of sense for Vorlons because they would. Oh my gosh. That's great.
And what in going back to Star Trek on Deep Space Nine, Jeffrey Combs's character that he was number one, number two, number three, number four.
Oh,
Mhm.
Wayoon.
Wayun, yes, Wayun, you had Wayun 8 and Wayun 9. Maybe
Yeah.
this was Kosh 2.
Well, you'll find out later on as we keep going through B5 in our group. That's basically what I'm going to call him is Kosh 2.0. It's
Yeah.
because it's confusing otherwise.
They never give you his other whatever his other might name might be, do they? I don't think so.
You have to look it up, which
Oh
you
boy.
can if
Yeah.
you want to. He does have a name, but I won't say it here because that's not in this episode.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if they ever tell you what it is. I know that it exists in supplemental material that people have written. I don't know if it's actually in the show. And certainly I don't call him that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it's ever actually said in the show or if it is just a footnote in
Hmm.
other material.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now.
And it's
I'm
not
gonna
a
have to
name
look
that
that up.
trips off the tongue either.
No, very likely not. Yeah. So, how about we talk about Lita because she's finally
Yeah.
back, has been absent for a while,
Yes.
and you mentioned to me in text prior to today, Julie, that you love Lita in this episode. So, why do you love
Yes,
Lita?
I do. It was so nice to see her back, and she's got so much agency, and there's so much more to her than you knew. I mean, you find out that there was so much more to her relationship with Kosh than anybody knew. And she's got a whole lot of guts, and you gotta love that. It's also a really good performance. I just
Yeah.
enjoyed it. This episode left me wanting much more of Lita.
Yeah, there's so much that's unsaid with her and especially with Kosh. Like,
Yeah.
what did she know? What didn't she know? What was she off doing? Going back and forth, running
Yeah.
errands for him. Like, there's so much that we don't know. And you're absolutely right that there's so much more to her. And I think we're just starting to crack that potential with testing the telepath theory in this episode.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, it was actually pretty smart, although crazy, but smart to go out there and do basically a stress test to see how
Well,
this works. But like, what if Lita had said no? Like, that sounds
yeah.
risky. I don't think so. Can I go more in Kosh now?
She could have. I mean, she doesn't owe Sheridan anything.
She really doesn't. And he asks her the favor and she just agrees to do it because she can. So that's pretty amazing of her.
Using her
But you
gift
gotta
for
wonder
good.
how much did Kosh tell her about the conflict and about the shadows? Does she know more than anybody realizes she knows? Because her relationship with Kosh was pretty close. So
Yeah.
she may have a reason for going because she may know more of the background than Sheridan realizes she knows.
Yeah, he doesn't know that and we don't know that. And she's just along for the ride because she's the one telepath that he can ask.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, except for a couple of other Minbari telepaths, but I guess, Hey, Lita, while you're here, since you're on the show this week, how about you come on the White Star?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
It could be a
Minbari,
suicide mission, but
Yeah, we could all die, but you want to come anyway?
And
and
I think it's go
Go
ahead.
ahead,
I
Sandy.
would say the Minbari telepaths, they all needed their business laying down all in a row. She
Yes.
was up, she
I
wanted eye
noticed that.
contact, she wanted direct observation with the shadows, but it's like the Minbari telepaths were able to do it all telepathically because they just
Yeah.
looked like they were in trances.
Yeah, almost like
Yes.
a meditative state is what it looks like to me. Like they have to get to a certain place in order to maybe reach their telepathic powers.
Well, meditation is kind of Minbari, isn't it? I mean, that
Very.
clocks for me.
Yep, you're
That's
not
true. That
wrong.
checks so hard. Yeah. Yeah. I love the way Patricia Tallman, you can see that Lita is working her telepathic
Yeah.
whatever without being, I don't know, what would be the word, weird about it?
She
It doesn't
doesn't
look.
blink for one thing. I was freaked out by how long she could go without blinking.
Yeah, that's a good detail. She really doesn't, though. She just has that intense gaze, and it really is like she's projecting out there. That was such a good choice on her part.
Well, in the direction of it, because they panned around her face as she was channeling this,
Right.
and it just seemed like the scene went on and on and on, whether they did a slow-mo or anything different, but it was very deliberate, and she was just intent, but she didn't blink, and it was just like she would break the spell if she were to
Yeah.
blink, and she just held it for the longest time.
I
It
want to
was
cut
kind
in
of
with a comment
jarring.
from the chat. We now know what the writing is on the Vorlon ship, and we should have all seen this coming, guys. Glenn Iverson says, the writing was, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Of course it was. Vorlon trolls. Spam callers.
As long as it's not erection pills, we're good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, the whole telepath thing, this is apparently something that they can use to some extent now that they've tested it against the shadows.
Yeah.
Thoughts on like how this might play out? They found a weakness, but going forward in the war, like I don't know, what do you think?
I think they're going to need to find some telepaths quick.
That seems like a good idea.
Yep.
Because this was a 1-to-1 ratio, roughly, and they got by on the skin of their teeth. What happens if even more shadows show up and you're down
Yeah.
telepaths? Like, my big question is the more powerful the telepath, can they take on more? So,
Yeah,
like, say, you
They
know,
talked about Lolita being a P5, and the Cyclops can be what, P10, P12. So
right.
there's way, way higher levels of the telepathic powers. So Lita was just kind of like, she was strong, but she was not overly powerful. They just need to get the big guns in there.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot out of her that first time
right.
around to get things done. So, yeah, my big question is does say Bester have
Yeah.
like a better chance to destroy more quickly? Can he take on more than one shadow ship? Like this might be the next thing we've got to figure out, I guess.
Left
But you're
me
right,
wondering
Julie.
when I left me wondering when I was going to see him. The
Oh,
first time I
Bester?
watched this through, yeah, I thought, oh, Bester's going to show up soon because they need telepaths. And he has a reason to hate the shadows. So why don't they give him a call?
Yes. Yeah, the last episode where we saw him, he's sort of on Babylon 5's side. I mean, for his own purposes, but nevertheless, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that seems like a legit possibility at this point. How dangerous is that? Love it. We all want to see more of Vester. That's always good.
Always.
Yes. All right. Any other thoughts on Lita, the telepaths,
The Vorlon,
Sheridan?
the Vorlons.
Yeah, the Vorlons, this new jerk Kosh.
Yeah. And what's this with Sheridan having a piece of Kosh? It's an interesting concept. What does that mean exactly? How
It's a
did this
very good
happen and
question, isn't it?
why? Yeah, what the
Yeah.
hell is that about? Why does Lita hear Kosh's voice when she talks to Sheridan? And does not that not make her a little crazy?
Oh, I'm sure it kept her up that night at the very
Yeah.
least. But also, yeah, why does Kosh 2 want to know? Like, is this a
Yes, it
Contra
was.
situation? That's what it made me think of,
Yes,
making a Star
that
Trek
is.
reference. Like,
I think
yeah.
that's the way it is. Yeah, clearly they're supposed to store themselves somewhere. If death is imminent, that's clearly what they're meant to do, and that was supposed to be Leah's job, apparently.
And she was not there, so hence the stranglehold. She's in trouble, I guess. And yeah, what does that mean for Sheridan too? Because okay, going back to Star Trek 3 with McCoy, it kind of drove him a little
Right.
crazy. Is this going to have any side effects for Sheridan? We get to march on and find out.
Yeah.
But I hope our first timers in our group are going to just have all of these questions and then some. Like I really want them to
Right.
blindside us with even more. I'm so excited. Now that we've come back from War Without End and now we're easing back into B5 and running forward with the story again. So, how about
Yeah.
some minor plot points? Let's talk a little bit about Jakar and Swedish meatballs, shall we?
every culture has one.
Swedish meatballs. I never thought about this as a universal constant until this show, but so far it's not been proven wrong.
I
Like,
was just kind of watching this because, you know, in B5, their quarters all have kitchens or kitchenettes of some type, and you know, the more major characters have more expansive quarters. And then I'm trying to picture Jakar in his kitchen mixing meat and making meatballs, and I'm like, I just can't see him doing his own cooking. He must have done, you know, Postmates or something. Grubhub's Swedish meatballs for B5.
yeah, getting
Do we want to
DoorDash
know?
from the Zocalo, some stuff food stall down there, maybe.
Do we want to know what meat Jakar puts in his Swedish meatballs, or do we not?
Probably not.
I don't know.
Yeah, like he mentions it's not the authentic, oh no, I'm blanking on the word, whatever he calls it, as a Narn cuisine
Yeah.
that, you know, if he were back on Narn, he would be serving to his friend, but it's the closest thing that they have. So, like, yeah, is it sort of like a hot dog where it's just like this mishmash of whatever you can find?
Yeah,
We
I
probably really
think.
don't want to know.
Yeah, I think we don't.
It's
But
mystery meat.
but it's yet another example, this episode, of Jakar becoming a leader. And that's a plot thread that we've seen over the long term. You know, at first he fails, but then Garibaldi yells at him, and he's ashamed of that, and he steps up and he shows up.
Yeah.
And
Here's a question for you both. Did you find it unusual that at first Jakar accepted no for an answer?
I thought he would try harder. I did. But he's not in a position, really. He's not in a position to order this other guy around. He
Yeah,
has to
but
use
no.
persuasion.
I mean, after Garibaldi lit a fire under his butt, though, he seemed to
Yeah.
have no problem with that. And then he
Yeah,
really rallied
I
the
wonder
troops.
how did he persuade him? How did he do it?
That
So
is such a good
we don't
question.
know.
I've got
We
that
were
in my
not
notes
there.
too.
We were not there.
Yeah,
Or
I
could
would
it
love
be
to know what he did.
my head canon is he recruited all of the other people and shamed him into it. They're all coming.
Hmm.
Do they have courage that you do not?
Ooh. That sounds like it would work. Definitely. Okay. I'm going to steal your headcanon. That sounds great.
Well, and then Garibaldi was letting fire under Londo at the very beginning. It
That's
was
right.
their little walk and talk at the
Yeah,
beginning,
that's a fun
and
scene.
that was a fun scene because Garibaldi just flat out put Londo in his place and left him
Oh yeah.
without words.
Yep. In a way that only Garibaldi can.
To Londo, because those two have such an interesting give and take as it is. But
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
good line. That was definitely a good line. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was very good, and I'm so glad that Garibaldi put Londo in his place. And just in quick order, too. Nothing flat. And also, I hope Londo's watching his back just a little bit.
Yes.
He needs to.
He should, yes.
Yes. We did learn that some Narn warships have survived their war against the Centauri because they got a little bit overlooked early on and they're trying to rebuild their forces. What do you think that means long term with their war, essentially, and then also against the shadows here?
Well, they're obviously going to be very key against the shadows because they are, you know, piecemealing their ships back together, and they're angry. They're angry. They're hurt, and they want to hurt the Centauri. They want to get back at the Centauri, but I think they also want to support those who supported them when the Centauri were destroying and killing the
Yeah.
volumes, the volumes
On the
of
whole world. Yeah.
millions of Narn. So I think they want to come back and the Narn want to come back and support those who supported them now that they're in a position to at least somehow make their way back.
Yeah. My thought is that they are supremely important to Babylon 5 and that protection thereof. One, because it pisses off the Centauri, and that's kind of fun. And they get some satisfaction out of that. But also, it is repaying, you help me, I'll help you, that sort of a thing. And we are seeing in just the most subtle of ways, like, there are alliances forming. People are ever so slowly starting to come together. It's taken a lot of work just to even get this far. But with so many battles going on among, say, like the League of Non-Aligned Worlds, they're fighting each other, they're getting attacked by the shadows. It's a miracle any of it is happening at all. So this is actually a really big, important step. It's pretty cool. And once again, I would love to know what Jakar said to help make that happen. Because Sheridan has tried on a couple of occasions, and like, if Sheridan got an inch, Jakar got a foot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. One last thing, and then we'll probably need to start wrapping up. The lounge in down below. I forgot to mention all of
I
the
was going to
futuristic
go there. If
instruments.
you were going for some other small plot points, I was going to the lounge.
Yeah, let's get them out. So we have a futuristic looking sax, sort of a futuristic looking mic, but
Well,
the guitar,
the
no.
neon sign against the back wall was a traditional sax, but they were playing a piece of square cardboard or something. I don't know what it was they were playing.
Right.
They knew what a saxophone looked like because they had it right there in neon, but what the heck was that? It was very interesting.
It's the space sax. Because
Okay.
apparently
Yeah,
you still had to have the
clearly.
sax solos in future music, but the guitar, no changes, no notes. It's fine the way it is. We're not changing anything about it in 200 years. I don't know. Other random notes like that. What have you got? Sandy, you got anything?
No, that was where I was going to next, and you just led me right there.
Okay, fair enough. Julie, do you have any other random thoughts?
Not really. I have said everything that I had written down to say.
All right, fair enough. Well, that's a pretty thorough discussion of Walkabout. And guess what, you guys? We get to do it all again, starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, when we meet with all of the members of our group, and we'll get our first timers' perspectives on this and get our old vets involved and see where that discussion leads. And once again, if all of you out there watching want to join us, you can do so by going to missionlog.com/Patreon. You can join in. That gets you access to the Discord. And it's not just B5 that we have going on. It's not just the After Dark chat where we discuss whatever Mission Log is covering for the week. There's stuff going on all week just like this. We have like Twilight Zone. We have a special Mission Log chat for the international folks. So if you're across the pond, there's a time zone more convenient where you can join in and have that chat. We have Kontiki, which is the convention planning and just general chat. What am I forgetting, guys? Every now and then we've had the Orville, but that's, I think, on break right now. But we do a whole variety of stuff like this.
And then there's all the other discussions that are not Star Trek related. We talk about our pets or different hobbies and science and nature and many other sci-fi categories. You'll have a whole discussion on Tolkien or all those.
Yes. Yeah. And that even comes into the B5 discussion just because of
yes.
how much Lord of the Rings influences B5. But yeah, we discuss all the fandoms and we talk a lot about food and beverages, dining, travel. Yeah, you name it. We have a channel for it. And it's a pretty robust community, but it's also a great community. It's moderated. It is a great place to come and just join in with like-minded people. And I have a great time. I probably spend more time on Discord now than any other platform that I use. I don't know about you two, but over the years,
there's no trolls there, which is nice.
Yeah.
And my daughter recently joined our Discord, and she's like, I haven't really spent much time there yet, because there's a lot going on. You don't know where to start. You just kind of
Yeah.
go down, and I told her to go to the where everybody shares their animals, because there's a place for us in our family because we have lots and
Yes.
lots of them.
Yes,
But
we want to
yeah,
see pictures of everybody's pets doing all the cute things. And there are several really cute puppies and kitties
Oh
on
my
our
God, so many
shows.
cats, so many cats.
cats
Yeah,
and
a couple
Star Trek,
puppers
we got
though.
that all going on in this group.
Yeah, but it is active, and that just goes to show though that we've got something for everybody. I think anyway. All right, y'all. Before we officially close up this edition of the Zocalo, is there anywhere that anything you want to plug, any social media handles, anything of that nature, if folks want to follow what you're doing out there and about?
Not really.
No. That's
No.
fair. That's okay. You know what? Social media these days, I'm spending less and less time on it, to be completely honest. I mean, X/Twitter is an absolute advertising hellhole these days. Every other thing is an ad. Um, I pretty much just publicize, hey, I'm gonna go do this thing, and then I don't do a whole lot more anymore because it's been pretty tough to scroll and be actually interested in a lot of things. That again, that's why Discord is so cool. Well, how about
Yeah.
we wrap this one up, y'all? Thank you again very much. Sandy, Julie, thank you for joining me today, as well as our producer, Earl, who I could not have done this without you, buddy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thanks also to the fantastic folks at Virtual TrekCon for not only having the Zocalo back for the third year, no less, but all the tireless work that this group puts into making this event happen. Every year it gets bigger and better. And just thank you all so much for everything that you do. This is such a good time. And thank you, all of you out there who were watching and chatting with us. Thank you, War Dog Heim and Robert Kaiser, Anne Marie, Galinda, Fran Iverson, Kimber Spores, all of you out there. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. And we hope we see you on the Mission Log Discord. If you want to head over to the next panel, the link is in the description right underneath our screen, as well as the full schedule. And thanks, everybody. Watch your backs.